Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, we'll do the roll call for the record. Commissioner Ed LaTurco, he's absent tonight. Commissioner Kent Moffett, he's absent. Commissioner Sarah Walensky.
Present.
Commissioner Rob Sheehan.
Present.
Commissioner Bill Boyven.
Here.
Commissioner Indra Deb.
Here.
Associate Commissioner Sadie Backstrom.
Here.
The Chair, Larry Cohen, is here. Conservation Administrator Eileen Coleman.
Here.
And Assistant Conservation Administrator Lucy Hanson.
Here.
All right. So we have 5 people present. All right. All right, this meeting of the Conservation Commission will be held in person at the Town Hall Meeting Room. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy. The meeting will not be suspended or terminated if we have technical problems that interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in any specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. Okay, so the first item on our agenda is approval of minutes. We have the minutes of February 13th, 2025. Any comments from anyone needed?
No, I had one minor change. I just sent it to Lucy.
Could I therefore have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, 5-0-0. All right, thank you. Next, we have a request. Item 4 is a request for a certificate of compliance, 8 Wing Terrace, by Karen A. and Patrick J. Gallagher, DEP file number 122-528. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you folks tonight?
Good.
Good.
Excellent. So the way this works is you just introduce yourselves, and if you're the homeowner, you say that, and then if you'd like to say anything, you can, you don't have to. This is, this is for a certificate of
Yes,
compliance.
thank you. My name is David Romero. I'm with Commonwealth Engineering, here with Pat Gallagher. Pat and Karen Gallagher is actually here at the table with me. We're here for 8 Wing Terrace, and what we're posing is looking for a certificate of compliance for 3 different orders of condition. It's kind of a little bit of a history to this. There were 3 applications starting back in 2013 for a notice of intent with for a house and a driveway. It was then amended in 2014 for another order of conditions was then issued at that point, and the house was a little configuration, and at that point is when you see the drainage for the rooftop runoff and also for the driveway, the stone trench along the driveway. And then a year later, it was amended, a revised amended order of conditions for adding a drainage pipe that comes from the foundation drain of the house and discharges along the bank. So this property is in the 100-foot buffer to a bank, and that's why we're here today, and that's why they came before the commission for the permit. The certificate of compliance was never applied for, so now we are years later, and that's what we're trying to do now. And I did give you a package with a letter, and I kind of paraphrased the letter that at the time we were not involved. There was a different engineer who was no longer around, and so there's no evidence that some of the things were done during the construction. There was no inspections done, and so there was no authentication that some of the things were put in. But we were contracted then to come in and do an as-built, and you can see the site. I know some of the members saw the site, some of the commissioners saw the site, and it's in good condition. Everything looks like it's built as it was proposed. Some of the things that we can't certify are the things that are underground. And I know some of the commissioners had questions on the underground infiltration system for the rooftop. I would like to submit something that we just got from the contractor, from Pandolfo, if I could give you that. It's actually a letter that serves as his written guarantee that all the construction regarding the building of the new home for the Gallaghers was completed as per the plans approved by the town. So he has your letter that says that, and also he has documentation of the invoices for all the materials. Can I give that to
Yes.
Eileen? Thank you.
Great, thank you for doing the extra legwork.
Okay. Eileen or Lucy, you have any comments on this one?
Only to say, David Romero did his best, given the fact that, you know, it was a few years ago, it was complicated, there was a number of changes, like he just explained, and there was no way for him to see underground without digging up the yard, just to confirm that the chambers were built. We went out there yesterday. You could see one of the red osier dogwoods that that was required for the order of conditions. There's the rear behind the fence is looking good. It's looking clean. It's looking clear. There's not a scrap of yard debris or any dumping back there. Trees and shrubs in good shape. We couldn't see, obviously, the yard under the snow, but you know, it all looks really very well kept, and they clearly do not touch behind the fence where the stream is. I have no issues with issuing this certificate of compliance. Your question was just about the chambers. How do we know they were built? And it's tricky. So I think this letter is about as good as you are going to get in terms of determining that that they were put in as designed.
Thank you. All right. Sadie, anything on this?
I don't think so.
Okay. Indra? Nothing. Bill?
These infiltration chambers, there were no cleanouts of any kind above ground that would indicate that they were there?
No, there's nothing, it was not
Okay.
called for on the plan, no.
If the two infiltration chambers are there, which that alleges that they are, then what was the purpose of putting in the long drainage pipe out to the brook?
It looks like it was something for the house itself, the foundation drain.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's a sump type
Yeah,
of thing?
yeah, it looks like something different,
Okay,
yeah.
that answers-
I think that's why it was after the fact.
Okay, that answers my questions, thank you.
Sarah?
I guess just another question about the infiltration chambers. Are there 3 or is there 2?
It's supposed to be 4, I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
4.
4 and almost all the,
Those are the dotted rectangles?
yeah.
Did nobody write down anywhere where those are? It's just a total that's lost in the mists of time?
Other than the letter, is Pandolfo, Joseph Pandolfo said that he put them in as the plan showed, so I'm assuming that they're in the corners of the house. And if you do look, the downspouts, if you were there, the downspouts are definitely going down into the ground, they're going somewhere,
Somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely going somewhere. I mean, if somebody ever wanted to like put in a pool or something someday,
Yeah.
where they are,
It'd be tough, yeah.
so.
Rob?
No.
I was out there, the site looks fine, it's in great shape, there's no issues out there, so,
Yeah.
yeah, we didn't get any, it's so long ago, we didn't get any inspection reports, but then again, the site looks fine now, so,
Yeah, it's in very good shape.
yeah, and I didn't see multiple pipes or anything, other than for what you said, the drainage area, so. And there was also, I noticed there was a good tree canopy which helps protect the stream and so forth, so I didn't see any need for anything further there. So if there's nothing further, I'd entertain a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for the project at 8 Wing Terrace.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? 500. Is there a bond?
There was, and it actually has to go back to Mr. Pandolfo.
Okay, so you still have it then, right?
I think so. I think when we looked it up a couple of months ago, we discovered it was a cash bond.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure we do owe him money back.
And he does want it
Yeah.
back?
He probably does, yeah.
I'm sure he does.
He missed it.
He was the applicant, yeah.
Fairly sure it was 3,500, but you know what, let me just, yeah?
Yeah, that's what the condition.
All right, could I have a motion for a full release of the bond of $3,500 for the project at 8 Wing Terrace?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? 500. You're all set, folks? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So much.
All right, take care. Enjoy your home.
There are several ongoing conditions for that one. So,
Oh, Okay. I should go back to public comment period. I
Oh.
missed it.
I suppose so.
So is there anyone here for public comment period? I didn't see anybody, and I just skipped right over it. You want to say anything that's not on the agenda? No, not them. Okay. So the record should show that there's no one here for public comment period. All right. Next, let's see what we have. Okay. Notice is hereby given that the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing, during which time will take information related to a notice of intent filed by the Burlington Public Schools for the proposed redevelopment of grass fields to synthetic turf field and associated walkways, lighting, and seating, and it's located at 114 Wynn Street, which happens to be the field associated with the Marshall Simons Middle School. The proposed work would be within riverfront area bordering vegetative wetlands and the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetlands pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, which is the Wetlands Protection Act, and Burlington Bylaw, Article 14. The commission will be reviewing all information relative to the application and may issue an order of conditions and a Burlington Wetlands permit. The application is available for viewing by clicking on the link on the Conservation Commission page. You folks here for that? All right. So, like the previous one, you start out by introducing who you are and how you're associated, and then I guess we give you the courtesy of speaking first.
Thank you very much. Arsen Hambard-Zumian, principal with Nestor Engineering.
Bob Cunin, School Department.
Hi, I'm Hippolito Aguilera, Nestor Engineering as well.
All right, nice to see you all.
Thank you. So if we could go over the original plan submission first, and then we brought some supplemental data that may be helpful with questions and answers, but
Do you want me to share he asked for the original plan?
yeah, if you don't mind, if we can go over the originals first, I can,
She probably had it ready to go anyway.
problem. I know
I wouldn't be-
some of the members are, remember from last meeting, but others may not, so happy to go through the plans a little bit.
I have one here if you want me to just, okay.
They're on their way.
Also, you can go over to the screen and point if that helps, too.
There?
Anyway, you
Oh,
want.
that's fantastic.
We're up.
Very nice. Yes, I think I may take you up on that.
Slow, but
Oh,
what's happening? Yep.
is it just your connection to the G drive over
Oh,
here?
no, I have this on my local, but it's just a large file.
It's a pretty big file, yeah, a bit of data.
Through it. Which,
All right, what
Okay,
plan?
yeah,
Start
if you go with the existing conditions, which is one back.
Do you want to make it a bit more than 110?
So this is the existing site. There's running track with synthetic turf field south on the page, west according to the north. That is remaining. However, the grass area to the north of the track and field is our proposed site. There is a access drive by the school with a turnaround pedestrian walkway that connects to a residential neighborhood. And there's resource areas on the north side and the west side. And the facilities used for recreation and sports. It's a natural grass field. The left side here is an intermittent stream, and we understand for Burlington bylaw that is treated as riverfront area. So it's mapped with a 200-foot riverfront, and then the wetlands have their 100-foot buffer zone. And I think we have the smaller buffer zone there. 5 feet, if I'm not mistaken. I can't see. And if we go to...
Can you point out the 200-foot riverfront on that? I'm having trouble.
Sure, it's right here.
Right up between there, okay, thank you.
And then the other 100-foot buffer zone is here.
Yep.
There's a small portion here of wetland that has developed over some time, but it's at the toe of the slope. This hill here in the parking area flows down, goes in this swale, if you will, to connect to the main body of the wetlands. And this area has developed some wetland characteristics and has been flagged by our wetland scientist. It's not to his words, I believe it's not of significant value to the wetlands, however, it does have those characteristics. It's not part of the main, body where it's surface treatment stuff. If we go to the next sheet is our demolition plan. What we propose to do is remove a section of the pavement by the school building to regrade and provide ADA accessibility in that area. We're proposing a construction entrance from that location. We also have an alternate route if things get congested or closed out from the track side. And we propose to remove the topsoil within the proposed synthetic turf and walkway areas. The organic material decomposes over time and it's not suitable to be underneath fields. So that will be removed, stockpile tested, and taken out of sight. We do have erosion control around the perimeter. All catch basins will have silt socks and protection with wattles around them, one here and one there. This one currently is filled with debris. The pipes are not visible. It's full of dirt and sand and things that have kind of washed off the parking area. We propose to fully clean that, inspect it, and if need be, replace it. There's a structure here that has some plastics and cups, etc. We propose to clean that as well, and some of the line is to be replaced. So now if we go to the next sheet, this is the proposed layout. These are two synthetic turf fields divided by removable netting down the middle, so it can be removed and orientations can be reversed or changed based on practice needs, or fields could be split into fours for practices and so on. The red is just red turf to designate safety zones for out of bounds, while the green is just green synthetic turf. We're proposing to provide ADA accessible walking path all the way around. That's a 6-foot wide walking path. We're also proposing to improve this ADA access to the neighborhood, make it ADA compliant, and come down to the field this way. So you'd have ADA parking, walking down the ramp, or going down the ramp, coming across here, some spectator seating on either side, as well as terrace seats. The two that are concrete in between the seat walls are ADA accessible routes for seating. The rest will be vegetated. We have a rain garden proposed in this corner, which will intercept the runoff from the parking and turnaround, which currently doesn't have any treatment. It goes directly into this catch basin, which outlets into the resource areas. So we're proposing a significant improvement for that area. We're providing emergency access over by the track and to the field, should there be a situation, and better connectivity from the track to the turf fields. This is a section that we discussed as potential wetland replication, but there is another area down here by the track which may be better suited. We're open to board suggestions, and we can go back and modify that to meet any requirements. At the last meeting, there's a question, for the informal meeting, some questions regarding are we getting any closer to the resource areas, what are our separations. Currently, there's a fence line all the way here. That's grass, and it's being used. We're proposing to go on an average of 20 feet further away from the resource areas, except for this very corner. This corner is a pinch point, and we're going 3 feet closer with the fence and 1.5 feet with the walkway. That's the only location that would go closer, well, I guess to 2 pinch points. And at the top right, which we're proposing some filling wetlands and replicating. And that was the area that has somewhat developed more recently and is grass. On the west side of the sheet, we're going approximately 30 feet further away, but that depends on how you measure. That's on average, and from the fence line that's there now. And we're proposing to remove the fence that's inside the resource areas further up north. In here, there's fence blocking potentially wildlife pathways. We're not sure what that serves or why that was there. We have some photo documentation. We want to remove that if possible, to open it up. There's some entanglement possibilities where the fence is folded over, it's a tripping issue, getting stuck, and it could be, not beneficial to animals. There's quite a bit of rubbish out there, some tires. We are proposing to do a full cleanup of the resource area. This work would be done by hand by the contractor. They would go in there and remove everything that they can and put it in a dumpster. This curb here, I have a section to talk about how we retain the infill, but I wanted to show a detail of the curbing. There's a lip to the curb, and the turf sits somewhat lower to that lip, so if there's any motion or migration, there's going to be an area that all around the entire perimeter that would catch the infill migration.
It's hard, it's very hard to see from here.
Sorry.
Like,
Is there any chance you could
I do
point
have-
on that one instead?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, 'cause that one, this one is easier to see.
There's a big glare off that one.
Yeah.
I didn't quite understand that. Do you just mind
Yeah.
explaining that part again about the lip?
So this would be the walkway, this would be synthetic turf. The synthetic turf is held by a curbing system that goes around the entire perimeter, concrete curbing system. The infill will not be set all the way to the top, it will be set about a quarter-inch below, so any migration, small amount of migration, would be trapped there. Part of the maintenance would be to rake that back if need be, part of the typical field grooming and maintenance process. If it was to go over, it would be, you would see it on the curbing, there's a fence, there would be a fence post here, it would get stuck on the curbing or the pavement before it hits grass.
So you'd see it on the 6-foot walkway.
Exactly. You would have to cross the walkway, which is around the perimeter. Then we have grass channel swales in many of the locations at the low points, which would be the third place it would get trapped, and that, that would be part of maintenance as well. Then if nothing was done, then it could migrate to the resource area. So we have checks along the way to stop this, if it was a concern. We also addressed it with the turf, which I have some slides for you that shows monofilament turf versus slit film turf. Monofilament is individual fibers. Slit film is a section of fiber like this that has slits in it and it folds over. So the monofilament holds the ball up for better play. The slit film folds down and traps the infill in place. That prevents movement under your feet too much, so kids don't slide as easily, they don't roll their ankles, they don't get hurt, but it also retains the infill in place.
So it has both of those fibers?
Yes, so the committee decided on a dual fiber system to provide both benefits.
Thank you.
Before you move on from that, sorry,
Yeah.
you mentioned that there's the lip and the walkway, and you said, and a swale?
Yep,
Could you
if we
explain
go
that,
to
that
the
I
grading
kind of
one,
missed?
if we
Oh, we're
can-
not there yet, okay, no.
On the next slide.
Do it at your pace, I'm sorry, go ahead.
zoom all the way back out.
If you weren't going on to that next, don't worry about it.
Yep, no problem. So this side is the high point of the field, and at roughly 139 elevation, I think it's 138, 37, 36, this becomes the low point. And we have a swale created here to, A, reduce any runoff that may sheet flow off the field, which isn't likely, because the way the field's going to be designed, most of the flow is going to be vertical. But in an event, if there is a significant flow, it would go to this area, here slow down, and go out this way. This is part of the grass field now, so we're not encroaching towards the resource areas with our walkways or turf, but we're going to propose to utilize that area to catch runoff. Similarly, we're going to have a low point here and here. So any of this runoff would be directed to this. And if there happened to be migration, those would be the locations to go clean and maintain. For the parking area, you can see the sheet flow travels this way, across the spaces to the rain garden. And we have a detail of how the rain garden will work. It's a depression with plantings. The catch basin is elevated, so that would have to fill up before it goes into that. It promotes infiltration through the specific soil that's for rain gardens to a perforated pipe, which then outlets to that catch basin, which we're proposing to clean and replace.
Where's the detail of the rain garden? I must have missed
It's on
it.
the very last sheet.
Oh,
Is that one next?
no, I believe it's there, I just hadn't noticed it yet.
Sure. If we go to the next slide is our drainage and utility plan. These dark lines are what's called flat panel drains. They're 12-inch wide, about an inch high.
Now, what are we talking about? Start again on this one?
Yep, these dashed lines.
Yes.
Those are flat panel drains. They go under the turf carpet, under the stone, above the filter fabric. And they're intended.
So is that like pipes, perforated pipes?
Yes, they have openings, but they're wrapped in filter fabric. So the turf has an infiltration rate of greater than 70 inches per hour. The base that we designed is a minimum of 25 inches per hour. So the intent is when the rain falls, when we have rainfall, it travels vertically in. It goes through the turf fibers, the sand and carbon rubber, or whatever infill system there is. There's a backing, 2-layer backing with perforations, filters through that. Then there's a denser drainage stone, still very permeable, but a smaller material so that you can laser grade it perfectly for the field.
Do you have a section?
I do.
Okay.
I do. And we can go through that at the end with the rain garden, but the intent is to have these flat panel drains that are then flowing into collector pipes, which are perforated pipes in stone trenches, which then ultimately come to this structure that we're proposing to replace. That's the same structure that receives the runoff from this parking area and the upper grass area. So we're proposing to outlet to the same location, and then that already is flowing to the resource area. So we're not actually cutting into the resource areas or adding any new piping that's flowing into it.
What did you say was 25 inches per hour? You said the turf
drainage
infiltrates
stone.
at 75. The stone drains at
Yes.
25?
Yes.
Yeah, the turf system drains anywhere from 60 to like 142 inches.
Depending on the
Yeah.
manufacturer,
Yeah.
and being a public bid, we can't control which manufacturer we get, but we limit it to 3 manufacturers or equivalent.
You mentioned the fixture in the upper left there that you said is going to be replaced,
So
upper left.
this one,
No.
Way up in the upper left of the field.
Of the
Yeah, up there. What is it being
Yes.
replaced with?
a new 8-foot diameter manhole. Currently, the manhole is built out of cinder blocks. It's not in good shape. I don't think it'll last more than 10 years, and we don't want to put a multi-million-dollar facility so close to it and risk damaging. It also doesn't have a deep sump. It doesn't have a hood. We propose to add those things. So the hood, as you probably know, covers the outlet pipe. So if there's oils that happen to be in the structure, they rise to the top and they can't enter the pipe. And then there's a deep sump on the bottom, so any sand and heavier material settles to the bottom, so only clean water goes up the hood and outside. Fairly standard, but that's what we're proposing to replace.
So a catch
it with.
basin, not necessarily
A manhole, but similar structure.
It's not a water quality unit.
What's
It's
that?
not a water quality unit per se.
I think the similar catch basins provide 25% treatment according to DEP. But
And this catch basin is feeding, the leachate is being collected there?
yes, everything that's underneath will be.
And parking lot too?
No, the parking lot ultimately gets there, but the parking lot goes to the rain garden, then to this catch basin, and then it connects there.
Goes through the rain garden first?
Yes,
Got it.
So you have the pipe from the rain garden to that point?
yes. We have the pipe for the catch base, the structure, and then any surface flow will get there as well, but everything's directed to the rain
So
garden.
it goes underneath the turf, the pipe from the parking?
Yes, it goes, it's pretty deep, so it's well under the field.
So the drainage from the lower field also connects to that, the same,
At this
there.
location, same pipe further down.
and in the future, I know there's some talk about renovating the lower field. Would that require any drastic changes in drainage, or?
This field
Yeah.
here, that's connected through here, so that would remain and not be unchanged.
So it shouldn't need anything, even after it's renovated, shouldn't need any
Yes.
drastic,
The
larger.
lower field renovation should be limited to removing the infill and fabric, putting a new fabric down, and redoing the track.
Okay.
But you're not changing the turf?
Not at this time, but I think that's something in the
Right,
future.
right. But not changing the grade down there.
Not changing the grade.
No grading. If in the future a pad is put down, then a thin layer would need to be removed to make room for a pad.
Is that pipe currently being used for drainage from the field from the cinder block drain and not the one that's filled with debris mostly?
So, yeah, not much is getting through there now because it's filled. There's another catch basin here that we were able to expose and look at, so that's getting runoff from the walkways and this hill. And then, the rest from the lower field is coming in from there. And then it outlets just into the wetlands, about 4 feet or so.
Just for clarification, this pipe here is existing, and that is where, if this was working properly, that's where all the particular drainage would be exiting. So we are connecting to an existing pipe. We're just improving it. And we'll show you some pictures, especially of what this pipe looks like right now. It's right here. We'll show you some photos of what we've uncovered when we inspected it. We do have that in the presentation.
If we go to the next slide. Okay, so these are our details. These are typical erosion control details, wattles or silt sacks and a silt fence, straw bales. We propose to put devices inside catch basins to trap anything during construction, and then those get removed and cleaned. That's our standard detail. If we go to some of the other sheets, this is the stone detail that we're proposing for the terrace seating. These are segmental blocks. They're about 2 tons, up to 2 tons, 16 inches in height, anywhere from 2 feet to 4 feet in depth, depending on the height of the wall. Because these are very short walls for seating, they would be 24 inches deep. And they have a lip like this, so the soil can come right to the front face of the block. There's room for 6 to 8 inches of soil on top of the block, so it doesn't actually add any impervious surface. Going on to the next.
Do you have any pictures of that? I'm having a hard time understanding that part. Do you have some pictures?
We may
It
have
can wait till
some-
the next time.
It's in the next slide.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
So this is a detail of the turf system. There's a synthetic turf, the top layer, fibers.
Maybe could you zoom in on that a little bit? Okay.
Is that as big as it gets? 200?
I think it's bigger than that. I'm just trying to make it a higher quality, which means zooming
Yeah.
optimization.
So this top section is where the fibers would be with infill. The fibers stick out approximately half an inch above the infill level. As I said, the slit film bends over and holds the fibers in place. The monofilament sticks up, and that's then there's the backing. There's a 2-layer backing to this turf system with perforations to allow water to flow through. This is what's called the finishing stone. That's the top layer. That's finer aggregate. Still very porous, but it allows us to get a smooth surface so there's not big humps and bumps on the turf field. Then there's 12 inches of drainage material above a filter fabric. So as runoff flows through, there's many layers of filtering. Not only that, it also allows for cooling of the runoff, because soil's typically at 55 degrees subsurface. By the time the runoff flows through down to it, flows laterally to a collector pipe, down the pipe to a flat panel pipe, down the flat panel to a collector, then to the outlet. By the time it goes out, I think it's cooler than when it came in.
How many minutes does that take?
So in our study, I believe, from the furthest point to the outlet, 4 hours.
Okay.
The flat panel pipes, where are they in that elevation? Are they below everything there?
So
or-
the flat panels would sit above this fabric, under the stone, but they'll have their own fabric wrapped around
Have
them.
their own fabric, okay.
Yes. And I think if we zoom out, there may be something else relative here. If not, Then on the next sheet, we have some more. That's the netting, that's the connection to drain manholes, maybe something here. Okay, this would be a good detail to focus on here. At the very edge, where the flat panel comes to the collector pipe, that's the collector pipe.
Okay.
The collector pipe sits about 6 inches above the bottom of the trench, which also has filter fabric around it. So runoff that comes through here hits the pipe has perforations that actually will flow through the pipe to the ground. It will infiltrate through the filter fabric until this base is built up. Until that's all saturated, then it'll flow into the pipe and work its way to the outlet. This is the curbing that I was mentioning in a previous slide, but it also shows the fencing and the lip here that it would go to. Again, this is filter fabric that wraps all the way around the side and the base of the drainage system. The flat panels also have filter fabric, and there's a mechanical connection. They have a special unit that connects them directly into the pipe.
Before we move on, I missed the very beginning of what you said. Is that the pipe that's at the side of, sorry, is that?
This is the collector
Yeah.
pipe that goes around the perimeter.
Okay.
And these are the flat panels that are set every 20
That are,
feet
yeah.
that connect to that. Yep. On some of the next slides. I think those are the most relevant one for our discussion. These are striping plans for the various fields. We've kept them to the lowest. In many cases, that's allowable per NFHS, so we still meet the high school use requirements, but they're not bigger than needed, so we're not encroaching on resource areas any more than we have. So soccer has a variable width. It can go as much as 245 wide, 360 long. I believe we're 180 wide, which is the minimum, if I'm not mistaken, by 330 long. The minimum for field hockey is the 330, so we're already governed by that anyway. Going on to the next sheet. Okay, that's over. So I think this is the next presentation, but if we could stop here and address any questions you might have or have a discussion, I'm happy to bring in some additional slides for the discussion.
All right. I think I'll give the floor first to Eileen or Lucy to see if you have questions or issues. The way we typically do this on a first hearing, we tend to note down what the issue is, not asking for an immediate response necessarily, otherwise we'd be here well past midnight. But it gives you an opportunity to think about your response and put it in writing and so forth. If it's something quick, you certainly can say it. I mean,
Very good.
that's the point.
Well, we actually have quite a lot of comments and questions, so how about I just address a few of them for now, and then
We will
you
li-
probably
we-
have overlapping ones.
Yes, we will list them as we go.
Okay, well, so one question I have just overall, it may not be directly what you just addressed, but you were considering this redevelopment, and I don't understand how you're coming to that definition. It doesn't seem to meet the definition of redevelopment under the Wetlands Protection.
With the impervious.
Or, for.
I don't think, did we
In the river.
select on in the application as
Well,
redevelopment?
in part of the application, under some of the checkboxes for stormwater, you had said partial.
Okay.
It's a mix, and I still don't actually understand that.
Then why?
I think it's just new development.
Okay, we will take a
Plus,
look at
The
that.
fact that you're going into, you identified that it was outstanding water resource area,
Okay.
means that, let me see, I made a note there just so you would be able to take the note from me.
Sure.
Where's the thing about that? I lost it. It's something about, oh, here it is. Sorry. That the structures should be removed and set back from waters and receive the best practical method of treatment. That was the definition under stormwater discharges to outstanding waters. So we haven't seen yet, and I know you're probably working on it, an alternatives analysis. You mentioned the last time that you had an alternative, that you had looked at a whole lot of alternatives.
We had, yes.
We
Okay,
have to
should-
see it.
should
That's part
provide
of the
it. Okay.
notice of intent process. It's very important. And among those alternatives, I'd like to see not artificial turf, something like an organic field. I'd like to see you changing the shapes, maybe making one artificial turf, maybe the right one. I have a bit of trouble writing that, sorry. The right one, artificial turf, the left one, just as an example, because that would be in the riverfront area.
Could we talk a little, if anybody else has a question about that, could we talk a bit about it?
We could, I have more.
Okay. Okay.
Did you do any test pits?
We had borings done, yes.
So what's the estimated seasonal high groundwater? I don't remember noticing that anywhere, and we will need test pits, really.
We have that.
That's the process.
Put it down,
for-
sure.
I mean, what did the estimated seasonal high groundwater say in the
We
boring?
have the report. Do you mind looking to see what it calls out?
Yes,
Thank you.
just a couple minutes here.
Sure. We also tried to do with an excavator test pits, but the ground was too frozen.
Right.
We
so
still
it'll-
might do
Right,
that.
during winter isn't the time to do that, or really, to be honest, the wetland delineation. We would need to see wetland replication plan, like
Yes.
with details.
I do. I was hoping to refine the location with the board today with the commission before formalizing that plan if
Okay,
possible.
well.
Said mountain application plans?
Replication?
Replication?
Wetland replication.
Replication,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean,
Infill,
Sorry, what?
alternative infill.
Alternative infill, yes, that would really come under, I guess, the alternatives analysis.
Yeah,
I guess
just making sure.
it could be. I know I wasn't trying to, I had a bunch of things, but I'm trying to move
Oh, yeah,
on
sorry.
quickly. And I did notice some inconsistencies, like with the rainfall data, for example, here and there. And at one point, you're talking about the treed area. I think you gave that an 86 CN, and then grass was only 80. So wondering, there were some inconsistencies in your.
CN values? Okay, we'll take a look.
I think Larry and the others probably have more, and we can always come back, and Lucy and I can add a few notes if they're not addressed.
All right. Who would like to start? Sarah, do you have questions, comments, require clarifications, or an issue you want to talk about?
I'm interested in the alternatives analysis also, especially the just plain old grass idea. Just to know what the pros and cons would be of that. If I'm understanding you correctly, the entire project will be further away from the fence than it will be somewhat farther away from the water resources than what's there now.
Correct.
That's really surprising, but that sounds good. And I had some questions about the infill material,
Sure.
because I've heard about health impacts to the users of the field, let alone the wetland resources. Just wondering how you came to the choice of is it regular old tire crumb rubber? Is it like this more fancier crumb rubber that's less?
So I guess if we go down a few slides, there's a infill materials slide. By the way, actually, if we
Just do this.
go through this?
Okay, well, I'm just wondering, what if they answer some of the questions that we're posing?
Yeah, I could run through this. It won't take long.
How do you want to do it, Larry?
Go ahead.
Well, here's the thing. I had in mind questions about the alternatives analysis. Anybody else had a question in that regard at all? Okay, and what I was thinking is, first of all, let me just say that I read that technical report, I think it was from NIH, on the contaminants that are involved, and I read the exposure analysis, and, it was done with modeling for like soccer-type activities, and it said that there was minimum human exposure based on, compared to background levels for that activity, but of course, they noted that it might be more exposure for something like with a higher contact sport like football, and they didn't really address that at all. Now that was partial good news. But I noticed that that report did not address the environmental health issues. So when we're looking at alternatives, it occurs to me is that the alternative analysis at least, I mean, Sarah asked for a grass alternative, which you can talk about that and what that requires, but I would think, and there are alternative fill materials, as you know.
Yes.
And the considerations are longevity, and whether it has the right sponginess to be a proper field, that it has the right give and take, the right properties. But I also think that the cost comparison to it should include the maintenance of it with respect to the replacement cost for each fill might have a different maintenance frequency and might have a different requirement. So I think the 20-year life, for example, probably when you compare, you can't just compare the initial cost, you really have to compare the maintenance that's required in each fill material, which I looked them up and I just couldn't come in here and say, I think you ought to use that material. I have no idea. There was just so many things people were talking about. But I did notice some people were talking favorably about a cork material, as you probably have heard of it. But I do not know if that's better or worse, or if you look at sort of like the 20-year lifetime cost with the maintenance, is it every 5 years or it is every, and what does that cost? And compared to what this is. So I think your alternatives really need to think about that if you're looking at alternative materials, unless it's exactly the same maintenance and everything is the same for the maintenance, then you can't just look at the initial cost, because it may be higher for an alternative material. I don't know.
Some time ago, I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago, we were retained by Burlington Public Schools to conduct a master plan of the facilities. Part of that, we did a thorough evaluation of current use, projected use, how grass holds up versus how synthetic turf holds up, and there was additional analysis done that way to come up with synthetic turf. So we have data that way. Because we had already selected synthetic turf, when we went to the detailed design with the school committee, we reviewed multiple alternatives of synthetic turf. So I don't have grass synthetic recent, but I do believe we looked at grass options and we have documentation of that. So I'll add that to the submission.
Well, there's probably a way you could just summarize and call it an alternatives analysis.
Yeah. And we did a cost analysis at one of the meetings, presentation meetings with the committee, to evaluate the alternative infills, which also require a pad. Because they themselves don't have much cushioning, it requires a pad to go under the turf. It's certainly an option. We do quite a few fields that way. But planning-wise and budgetary, I think the analysis and the conclusions were made during a study to go crumb rubber. But of course, we're all open to suggestions and discussion.
Well, here's the thing, I'll throw it out for the commission to think about, is that it's very clear that the tire crumb rubber has polyaromatic hydrocarbons, semi-volatiles, it has metals, it has a lot of really nasty stuff. But it's only as nasty as the point that either something in the environment gets exposed or people get exposed.
Sure. It has to be bioavailable, I think.
Well, you can use that word, sure. And from what I read, I want to make sure that the design is fully protective of the environmental health for the wetlands, as well as, of course, human exposure. And we wouldn't want to have anything that is a risk to the community. And I don't want to overblow it, because I'm not trying to say there is, but I think we don't want to have a risk to the community for health risk.
As a civil engineer, obviously I'm not a toxicology expert or a scientist in any way. We rely primarily on DEP and EPA for their guidance in whether the material is allowed, and then the rest is on people like yourselves and us to do additional research and kind of come up with the best conclusions that we can.
Right. All right, so Sarah offered some comments on alternatives. Eileen did, I did. Is there anything more that people want to say about that at the point? Because we can move on to other.
Sure, yeah, if we go down some of the slides, I think there's probably some valuable
Maybe some other
information
issues.
here.
Maybe we should go around to the commission and see if any other issues come up, and then
Lead the way.
you'll have a complete list.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sadie, you have anything on this yet?
I guess I'm just curious if there's any sort of conversation about any like erosion control, like barriers or anything when it comes to the intermittent stream and the field? Or if, like, I know that you had said there's sort of a barrier if the turf does travel. So is that sort of what we're depending on, or is there any more like fencing or anything like that?
So during construction, there will be erosion control. Oftentimes, I'm sure you'll have conditions that require a certain type, depth, whether it's buried in or surface laid. So we'll have that. And then the grass area, we're trying to put as much perimeter grass area as we can. And we won't take out the erosion control until grass is established fully, and then that serves as the erosion control moving forward.
So just a few feet of grass.
Okay. So, good, thank you. Indra?
So what is the required maintenance for the system you are proposing?
Typical maintenance includes drag behind groomer. It's like a rake. You have a small gator that you would typically use for maintenance. It'll pull that. What it does is it fluffs out the infill, make it softer. It props up the fibers.
So how often you do that? Means
I say about twice a year.
or twice a year?
I believe so. There is maintenance manual that we have that we can share, and that's just off the top of my head, but I can find out exactly. There's a magnet that can be drawn behind in case kids drop keys or other metals, things like that, that they shouldn't have on the field, but sometimes they do. It picks those up and you clean it out. We are providing 6 locations for quick valves, so you can connect the hose. If someone was to get sick on the field or have any issue, you can hose it down.
Sorry.
No problem.
Kids play hard.
Yeah, ooh.
Usually in our climate, extremely hot days in Massachusetts aren't as common as, let's say, Texas or other areas. But if you wanted to water it down, you can use those connections to water the field down and provide additional cooling. One concern with an alternative infill that's organic is it takes away from usable time. So we tend to do synthetic turf for sports in March and April that grass cannot sustain, it's frozen, but similarly the organic material will freeze and then you can't play on it. That's really the main drawback to organic versus
Is
scrum.
anything required right after the, rainstorm for maintenance?
For maintenance purposes?
Yeah.
No, the contractor will do everything until us as the engineers and the owner's representatives have signed off on it and said we're ready to use, and then you're good to go.
Okay, so once you come with some alternative analysis, then we can see what maintenance is required for there.
Sure, I can provide maintenance.
And what is required here.
I think it's fairly similar. I think you may have to drag the organic a little more often, but I can find that out.
Thank you.
Is there any sort of like disinfectant or chemical treatment of the surface other than water that has to happen on a regular basis?
There are products available, however, studies have found that it does not harbor any bacteria or risk to infections. In fact, they've actually found that it's more sterile than natural grass because there's no natural medium to keep it going.
Okay. Anyone else? Rob, you have anything?
I guess one thing I was thinking of too is that, for these turf fields, is there any, it would be nice to know if there's any like environmental improvement compared to something like varsity field, like by infill or drainage or something, just as a little bit of a comparison. But Not sure if you're familiar with that turf field.
Yes, I am familiar with it. It was part of our master plan. We did assist in the replacement of it. This is the one at the high school. I think the intent has been to maintain consistency for maintenance, playability, et cetera, so you have the same surface at varsity, you have the same surface inside the track and field at Marshall Simons. This would be the same field as well. Then, in terms of sports, you're not getting used to different surfaces, different cushioning levels, et cetera. And as far as the industry goes, I don't think there's been any change in materials.
Okay. Bill?
The existing field, when was that constructed, and at that time, did it come before conservation? I'm curious as to whether there was any wetlands filled at that point, or?
It was before conservation regulations, I believe. It was in the 40s or 50s.
Oh, really?
There was wetlands there. It was filled.
Okay.
We have an old map that shows only a portion, maybe a third of it was filled, but it was filled at that time.
I've certainly learned a lot about how complex these fields are. I had no idea they were that complicated. I figured you just level the field and put down this rug, but that's not the case, obviously. I'm concerned about maintenance because obviously the existing catch basins and drainage have not been maintained. They're full of silt and not serving whatever function they were originally installed as. So I think that's something that, we need reassurances is going to be done in the future. And my concern, another concern is that the actual location of the wetland restoration that's planned, it's hard when we went out there to visualize. I mean, it looked like the areas you are talking about creating new wetlands, just visually when we were looking at them, looked to be already pretty low and pretty wet. It would be helpful if the area that is going to be filled and the areas that are going to be created were flagged somehow, that we get a good visual of what it is.
Okay, we'd be happy to locate those. In terms of maintenance, the turf is significantly less maintenance than natural grass fields. However, the rain garden area and the turnaround, that will require same or even more maintenance to make sure the rain garden is functioning properly.
Exactly. Okay.
Especially during the first 2 or 3 years, we do have maintenance plans that walk the potential person in charge of what they need to do. But the first 2 to 3 years are super important to make sure the proper plants are growing and replaced when they don't take. But we do have a maintenance plan. We provide that as part of a SWIP, which is the permitting process for your NPDES permit, the general permit, the contractor general permit. So.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Could we go back to Bill's comment about maintenance? Not only are any structures have to be maintained regularly, but who is going to be responsible for, let's say, some of the infill gets torn up and ends up on the walkway, for example? Somebody has to know to clean. I mean, that material, it has in it volatile organic compounds, semi-volatile compounds, polyaromatic compounds, metals, PFAS, which everybody knows what PFAS is. It's ended up in our water supply, and so forth. So you wouldn't want people to come in contact with that. So, how is that going to be ensured? If Bill just made the comment that the maintenance on catch basins hasn't been the greatest. So the question is, how is, I mean, it may be unlikely that you're going to see anything, but if you start seeing the tire crumb rubber particles, sheeting onto the thing at some point, somebody's got to clean it up.
Our suggestion would be to put together an operations and maintenance plan, which we're happy to do. We have a lot of experience doing that. Having that reviewed by the school committee as well as the commission, making sure everybody's on board and making that as a condition in perpetuity or until the field's replaced, until new conditions are set forth.
I mean, I think that's a manual task, but it's an important task, is my point.
I agree with you.
That struck a chord with me when you said it. Okay.
Can I just ask for something additional to that the maintenance plan should, I would like to see it include some sort of testing once a year or twice a year or something of the water that's coming off to actually see what is in it. and make sure it's,
The only issue there is there are other sources of contribution to the runoff. So the parking area, whatever comes off of vehicles, that's going to flow into the same line. Whatever's tied into from the other field is going out to the same location,
well,
everything in the area.
you said the stuff from the parking lot is going into the rain garden area and then across from that pipe there? So we could have a sample from maybe the lower corner.
So everything ultimately outlets at that top left corner.
Was it not being treated before then by going through all these systems? So presumably it should be clean treated water that's coming to that outfall, that is working from that catch basin.
The current parking lot.
Including
that you
having
see
gone through the
there
rain garden.
Just flows into that catch basin, the one that's not working very well. So you still have all the vehicles and all the oil.
But you're putting in a rain garden
Yes.
and a swale.
Yes.
Yes, but because it's right next to the other parking areas, you still have that potential existing problem where it's all flowing
Yeah.
through that proposed cleaned-out catch basin or replaced catch basin and down the line. So you still have that problem now.
There is a device they sell that you can put directly into or at the edge of a turf field that goes under at the collector pipe with a monitoring well, and you can get samples there. That would be a little more representative of the actual field.
Right.
As opposed to if you were at the outlet, because you don't know exactly all the
I do
contributing
understand what
sources.
you're saying, and I think it would be better to test it somewhere else, like over at one of the corners.
You
Maybe
just
they
need
can
to put in
they
an
can propose a
access
sampling.
to do
plan.
that.
Yes.
And it also provides real-time temperature data if you wanted to keep an eye on it.
Yep.
I think it's important to realize, that for me anyways, that this is, I'm not convinced in the assumption that the water coming through the artificial turf and the pipes is therefore clean.
Right.
You know, I mean, you don't have any bacteria treating it that you would get in a rain garden or a turf field. So that's why I think that kind of sampling would be important.
I mean, this is really a very basic system that you're proposing. It's really just going through the stone, and that's it, right?
Well, it's being filtered through filter.
So there's no, other than whatever you put for infill, there's no, not like a parking lot where you have other sources, oils, grease, et cetera, or whatever might be carried in the vehicle. So, and it's filtering through natural soils, just like you can have a septic system that's then filtered through the soil. It's still filtered through the soil and treated by,
But it's not being filtered through soil, it's going through stone.
it's going through stone, it's hitting soil, whatever's being absorbed into the soil or flowing through and then going through fabric and into pipe.
What if you did a test now to see what the levels are now, where it would be all the, whatever stuff is coming from the parking lots, and then after, isolate what was due to the field?
That's what I do. Before and after.
But it's sort of too late at that point. Like, what if you
Yeah.
discover after installing this multi-million-dollar beautiful system, oops, there's some of that 6,600 quinone,
6-PDD quinone.
that stuff.
Right, and you also have another field containing the same stuff right next to it that's flowing there right now.
Which means we
Yeah.
probably don't want to double it,
Right?
presumably.
That one was permitted 12 years ago, before we knew all this stuff.
Sure.
I also wonder if, I mean, I don't know what the monitoring device you're proposing is, but my understanding is most of the tests that would need to be done on the water quality is something that happens in a lab. So I would love to see more information on whatever monitoring device you are proposing.
Yeah, this is more so for access to sample to take to the lab and real-time temperature data.
Okay, so
So,
no device.
so you want to see more monitoring, previous monitoring data of this kind of system?
Oh, my understanding was that it was a real-time monitoring system, but
For the temperature.
it's just a temperature.
For temperature.
Yeah.
I don't know what other chemicals it could be.
Is the manhole in the corner, does that just have one pipe going into it? Or is it multiple?
Which one?
The one that is being.
The one right before
renovated?
discharge to the stream.
Yeah.
So it has the parking lot going to it, it has the track and other field going to it as well.
Can you
So-
see the inputs for it? Like, is it one pipe and one pipe, or would we know?
Yeah, I think we might have a picture if we go down a couple.
I'm just curious if you could test
Slide
from one of the
6.
inlet.
These are some of the debris that's in the wetlands. That's the catch, but whoops. That might be, that's the intermediate catch basin. So that's a catch basin.
Where's that one?
No, this is the one at the end before it outflows into the stream.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the one. So the green pipe must be coming from the track and field, while there's way down on the bottom, there's a pipe coming in from the parking area and another catch basin. I'll come up.
So this would be from the track.
Yep.
This would be from the,
So
that's actually this way, but it would be from the parking area. And what's actually there now, I forgot about this, is the outlet pipe, the top is broken, and the water flows in that way into it to go out. So they never, this is what's called a doghouse manhole, so they never fully excavated it, they just set that structure on top of it, cut a hole, but it's filled with debris. This is the opening that water would actually flow into, but it's full of trash. So we're proposing to remove this, cut the pipe on either side to make it fully flow, remove all the trash, and then make all the connections all over.
So the new pipe would be similar to the blue pipe there that comes from the upper field.
Yeah, it would be
So-
black, it would be higher up, but,
And easily sampleable.
So you could sample directly from that pipe, is what I'm asking.
oh, yes.
Yep.
You could, yes. Yes, you could.
All right, well, you'll propose something as to what you think makes sense. The only question about sampling, does it, the temperature of the sample makes a difference. If it's a cool day versus a very warm day, you're going to get a much higher likelihood that stuff will be in the water collected. So you might want to think about that, you want to get something that's representative of a more worst case than not.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding. I would assume they would compare the temperature of the water to the ambient temperature and monitor those fluctuations, but is that what you mean, or?
Well, what I'm saying is I understand that the water going, even though you say it's going to be cooled, if you have a very hot spell, it can get very warm in there, is what they're saying, is what I've read. If that's the case, the water that filters through, hot water that filters through the Thiachrome rubber is likely to contain more contaminants because the solubility goes up with temperature.
So,
Chrome rubber tea.
but we want to see that.
That's right, so you want to do it when it's warmer.
Oh, that's what you're saying. Okay.
That's what I'm trying, I may not be expressing it right, but I'm saying you don't want to do it on the coldest day available because you will have certainly the best result. It may not show anything more, but it would be nice to.
Sure. So you'd like us to take samples of the stuff coming out of the green pipe or the existing field and test that?
That would be a good start, because that'll give us a sort of baseline for what's actually out there right now.
Yeah, I think you have to, you've heard the comments, I think you have to propose something. I don't think we should dictate the entire
Right.
thing. You folks need to propose something. So let's talk a minute, a couple of clarifications that I didn't ask you really any real questions while these folks were talking. Is there any situation on the field you're developing where the water will be surface water runoff into the wetlands? Is there any possibility of that with your system?
Yeah. It's not intended to. Could it be possible? Yes. Maybe an extreme flash flood or high rain events where it doesn't have the chance to absorb vertically, it's possible.
All right, so the reason I'm asking is where you're proposing the replication area, are we, for that scenario that was going to happen, are we better off having the replication area in that southwesterly area versus where they're proposing, right next to the new field?
They were open to use.
I know they're open to it, but I'm trying to just elevate the discussion so people think about it.
Yeah, so if you don't mind going to the grading plan, I can show you the low points, and those would be the best place to put them. If you intend for that to treat that runoff, then yes.
I mean, I'd rather not see a connection of runoff off of this field going directly into the wetland.
Go down one more.
One more slide, or
Yeah, one more slide.
this one?
This one. So the water primarily is going to flow here, so if we want replication here, here, and here, that's where it's going to catch most of the runoff. Here and here.
I personally, I don't want that stuff going directly into the wetland.
That's my point.
Could we do something further, I guess that's
Further south.
northwest?
This, well, so are we using sheet north and south, or do we want to use that arrow?
Actual north,
I think she's
Actual
talking,
north
I think she's
is-
talking about the bottom left of the
yeah,
drawing.
bottom left picture.
South, oh, west. Okay.
What?
This would be west.
Yeah, so,
Northwest.
so,
Okay, yep.
you know, providing a replicated wetland more adjacent to the old field, but, I mean, it seems like there's quite a bit of distance. Is that better?
Is it better? I'm not sure. I guess,
Who have you got working on the wetland replication plan?
Stephen Chamil's our wetland scientist.
Well, I mean, I would defer at least to some of his suggestions. He knows what he's doing, presumably with wetlands. We wanted to be fed, we wanted to be hydrologically connected, but I think some of our concerns are, we don't want it getting potentially contaminated water directly into it.
Yeah, my concern is just to be clear, I am, assuming the maintenance is done, I'm reasonably satisfied that human health risk doesn't seem to be an issue. Mass Department of Health actually said here that they did a biomonitoring study, and that the blood and urine samples of study participants and in artificial turf fields, blood levels of metals were similar to that in the general population, and urine levels of polyaromatic hydrocarbon metabolites did not differ from participants in natural grass fields. It seems like that there's not a substantial human health risk, is what, this is like the second source I've read that seemed to claim that. So the issue for us to think about is environmental risk, and, as we've become aware, that stuff releases some highly toxic, in very small concentrations, stuff to an environmental areas. And so if the design can prevent that, or we can locate the replicated area to prevent that, or we can do anything to stop untreated runoff that has soluble contaminants in it getting into the wetland, I'm all in favor of that. If we can't have a reasonable case for assurance of that, then it becomes more attractive to look at a different, infill material. But I am somewhat, I was somewhat pleased to see that the system you have, the artificial turf, has to spill into that area on the side, and then it would have to wash into the 6-foot walkway where it'd be very visible. And so that gives me some comfort that we could prevent it from going further if the maintenance was kept up.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, does the old field there have drain pipes like this one?
Yes.
So it's the same system? And it has the rock and the collector pipes and the fabric wrapped?
It does. It's in a herringbone pattern with collector pipes on the sides of the field along the track.
This is, I'm talking about the upper,
Yeah, the track and turf.
yeah,
field.
the
Correct.
existing artificial turf.
Okay, not this one.
Is that one
Not
just
this one.
set up for soccer now or something? I'm wondering why it's not being used now. Is it just,
I don't know that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
I'm wondering why it's not being used now. Is it just set up for soccer or something? Just for non-winter?
What do you mean, why it's not being used? I mean, we
Well,
just
it's covered
literally
in
had
snow.
snow up until like a couple days ago on the fields. And then I'm not sure that the seasons have actually started for outside. The rec department actually rents that space out to any other bodies that want to use it. So the school department's athletic events haven't started yet on those fields,
When do they start typically?
usually in April.
Okay, and which were, sorry, just
It's
verify.
usually in April. I mean, there's,
Totally. No, I'm not a sports person, and so the months that you wanted this specifically for, I think you said were March and April. Is that correct? Just verifying for my.
For the organics, they're typically frozen March and April,
Totally,
or
okay.
happen to be, and so I think lacrosse season's early. And then if you were to have a baseball, that would be in the early season as well.
Is that set up for baseball?
No, I'm just saying that those are the two sports that I know that start early.
not for an official baseball game, but definitely for practice. So.
So-
They're non-sports.
So beyond the 6-foot walkway, which is all around, is that correct?
Yes.
You have a swale. Is that what you have there?
In 3 locations.
A swale in 3 locations. And the purpose of that is what?
We put it kind of as a contingency plan, just in case, if there was to be surface runoff, A, it would slow it down, B, as mentioned about keeping stuff from flowing off the field potentially, so it's another lower area depression for anything to collect.
But you're in 3 discrete locations for that, right?
Those are spots that were available to use. So that was a grass area between the edge of the proposed walkway to the existing fence that we had. So instead of just leaving it
So,
flat.
there's not room for like a 2-foot drainage swale connecting them all the way around? Well, I don't know.
No,
I don't
there's,
know.
that seating area
Yeah.
is in the way.
The seating area?
And then at the top
Oh,
left corner, we're pinched in with the resource areas. We could do it, but then there's just further encroachment to the resource area.
You're really only about 10 feet from the stream there, right?
At that corner, yes.
I see.
And it's currently, I think, 13 feet.
So,
I mean, the grass field is 13 feet. Well, it's very different, though, between grass field and impervious surface.
so is the swale, are the swales the maximum length that you can fit in there? Is that the point?
Pretty close to, yes.
It is.
I mean, I can widen it out a little bit, but not much
Maybe
more.
you can look at that to see if, if in major storms, you're going to have everything running off, you might as well do everything you can to catch it. The question is, are those swales, would they have stone in them, or is it just storage to slow it down, or is there anything that would encourage storage and then infiltration into the ground?
Yeah, it's a grass area, so the one north of the seating area is just a swaled out outflow. The one lower is a little more like a rain garden without rain garden plants. It's just a depression where the water would collect. Anything beyond that would flow over. Anything to that point will stay and infiltrate into the soil.
So are you specifying the bottom soil of those drainage swales to be a certain spec?
I have not, other than the rain garden, we have not. But if,
So I'm just wondering if you want to
Interested.
promote infiltration, if it's worth putting a spec in. Either a performance spec or a detailed spec, depending on what you want to do. And in the westerly corner, we talked about the bottom left of the way down by the old field. If we were to do a replication area there, could we provide some type of system to prevent it sheet flowing into that wetland, that stuff running off? I mean, if you put a wetland and it's closer to the field, can you design some assurance that if it does sheet flow in a heavy rainstorm, that you're able to do something with it?
the lower field should not sheet flow off of it because the track is pitched in. So the pavement is
But
at,
if you move the wetland to the old field down
Yeah.
in the bottom left,
so I guess what I'm trying to say is the lower field is designed so that the circular track all flows into the turf field. It wouldn't be able to sheet flow off of it and onto the wetland replication. So there wouldn't be surface contribution from,
in the planned area you're talking about. in the area that's at.
In the one we're proposing down low.
Could you do the same here with the walkway? It goes around it, like a pitch driveway or something, just have it pitch slightly into the
The
field?
other way.
We could. I'm trying to remember if the current track has a trench drain which catches it. If not, we'd have to have kind of a lip, basically synthetic turf swale where that collects until it's infiltrated, because if it does, the water from the pavement's going to go there and collect for a little bit, but it can be done.
So it would still have to be ADA compliant and all that stuff?
Yes. On the top part, it's doing that now. It's pitching in on the right side.
All right, so,
The part top plan?
Yes, on the right side.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, top.
can we go through the list of what we have and
From the seating.
make sure that we're all on the same page? I'd hate for you to get to whatever meeting you come to next, and we'd say, well,
He hasn't done his second presentation yet.
this is another presentation.
Yeah. We were going to do it, and then we asked questions instead.
Let's go through this list. Maybe we have enough to,
It might be enough for today.
might be enough for today.
Sure, and then we can update our next presentation and include those.
That would be, yeah, that's a good idea.
Unless it contains all the answers.
Some, but not all.
All right, so I'll try to go through this, and I probably got some of it wrong. The definition of redevelopment versus development, is that agreed? We're going to call it development?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so.
that's
yeah.
fine.
Okay, all right. And the alternatives analysis, Sarah asked for grass, and we talked plenty about making sure you're comparing apples and apples with the same sort of lifetime of maintenance. Estimated seasonally high groundwater, that has to be done, I guess, when the weather gets a little better.
We do have it, I think we have it in the borings. I want to say it's 5 feet down, but
Sure.
we will, if needed, we'll do additional
Well,
test
I mean,
pits.
test pits is,
Sure. So they've reached the previous wetland layer that's under there, which is approximately 5 feet down, and then the groundwater would be another 10 to 12 inches below that.
so do you have a full, how many feet of separation do you have between the bottom of the turf and the estimated? This is what I don't.
Right, right, I believe it's 4 feet, but yeah, we will clarify and provide it.
Yep. Continue, Larry, sorry.
We did receive a initial geotech log. We're waiting for the full report. And in that, we did 4 borings, and it indicates they range from slightly over 5 feet to 15 feet in depth for the groundwater. So we have an initial report, but we'll get that over
All
to
right.
you.
And wetland replication plan, I think that was asked for. The rainfall data, I wasn't quite sure what was being asked for there.
There are some inconsistencies.
Inconsistencies among, across the stormwater report.
Okay, so you'll review it for inconsistencies.
Yep. What was the one before this, between groundwater and the rainfall data?
Wetland replication plan.
Thank you.
Replication plan. And then I have a note here for infill material. I don't know what that means, to be honest with you.
Alternative info.
Alternatives, okay. That's similar to what I said earlier, okay. Erosion control perimeter grass area. What was that about? Sadie asked about that, I think. She asked about erosion control perimeter grass area. So,
I think that was all set. I don't think there's an action item on that, right?
No,
Are you
I
okay?
was just curious if there's any proposed.
all right, so
Yeah, there isn't really, that was kind of addressed, I suppose.
that was all set, okay. That's fine. Maintenance of, I guess, an O&M plan is what we talked about. And you're going to, our priority would be to clean up any stuff that does get onto the track, that material.
Including what? Oh, right. He may not have got.
You're going to flag the areas to be filled and the areas to be created, or something like that? And then we said some kind of a testing plan that takes a look at
I think that would be included in O&M
O&M, in the O&M plan, okay.
It would be, yeah,
yeah,
it should be in there.
as the theoretical infill potentially degrade.
Yeah. And something about monitoring for temperature. There is a system there that does that?
Do you want that?
Yes,
Yes.
I guess that answered your question.
or at least we would want some,
Ideally, yes, monitoring for temperature in some fashion, or at least a reassurance that, I mean, you told me that there was a certain number of minutes.
Yes, so that's in our report. There's soil data for K-SAT values, which is the travel time, conductivity of the soil, and we made an estimate, a range, and then when we reduced it by half to be conservative, and it became something like 2 minutes per inch travel time horizontally. So then if you have 20-foot spacing at 2 minutes an inch, we calculated that and we came up with a time.
And then I have here, you're going to look at the possibility, somebody mentioned it here, that the track could possibly be pitched to collect any water. So it would go in the reverse, a gentle pitch to go back into the field.
The walkway, yes.
Yes. A walkway. Is there anything else?
Just general.
Are there other things?
Well, they need to be showing that they are meeting all the standards, since it's development, not redevelopment. Was there anything else that we hadn't touched on?
Let me,
That we didn't all say?
those are my biggest things.
Okay.
I mean,
They are using
Oh,
electricity
and-
in nearby towns, like in Lexington.
And you're going to determine whether any of those swales for catching a flood going off, if they can be made any larger, given the area that you have to work with.
I would love to see in the alternatives analysis, thoughts about like restructuring the natural grass and like different drainage ideas for that, because if you're worried about the drainage of it, there are local fields, I don't know if they're necessarily like sport fields, but that have drainage and like soil, what's the word? Soil amendments, allow for better drainage.
So the intent of the project, the reason it went synthetic is based on the study that there isn't enough fields based on the use. So I think if it was to be grass, there wouldn't be a project, but I don't want to
Yeah.
speak for the.
Are grass
Well,
fields out of...
this may not just be the place for a synthetic turf field.
What was that?
I just said this may not be the place for a synthetic turf field.
Okay. Just a quick question about grass fields. Are grass fields out of service a certain percentage of the playing year because of the condition of the field?
Yes, and there's also a limit of how much you can use the grass. So if you were to go synthetic turf and add lights, you can have 3 times the usage of a natural grass. Natural grass cannot sustain that amount of playing time.
I see, okay. All right. Okay, so, and if you take a look at the alternative for putting it in next to the old field in the far left of the drawing, the bottom left of the drawing, expanding the replication area there, is there any benefit you see to doing it there versus, would that replication area be protected from runoff by doing something, or so that you don't get stuff washing from the field onto that new replication area? If it's less likely in where you're proposing, maybe that's better, I don't know.
I'll consult our
Foot traffic,
wetland scientist.
would it be subject to foot traffic down there compared to the, in the upper right, there's not going to be any foot traffic beyond the field there.
That's another good point. Yeah. All right, I suspect that's more than enough to kind of get at some of these answers, and should we, so we have an open hearing, should we schedule it for 2 weeks from now? It seems like awfully quick.
We'll have most of it. I don't, so we kind of went away from current sampling. I think that's part of a condition. So yeah, everything else we can do that. At least we'll give you an update. Maybe it'll be a quicker meeting, but We'll do our
So
best.
why don't we,
And they can always be in touch if for some reason they need to
you
continue.
can always delay it.
Can I ask a question, just from my understanding? I understand that you're asking us to provide some of these answers, maybe some of these reports, et cetera. Has there been a determination that anything asked tonight is a requirement that has to be done? And the only reason I'm asking that is that I have concerns of budget. I understand safety, I understand toxicity is way more important than any of that. I'm really trying to gauge whether or not anything tonight has been imposed as a requirement that has to be added. We're 100% willing to provide any data information. I just want to make sure that we focus on the ones that, if there is anything required from us specifically that you need to see in this project, that we meet those demands first. So,
Honestly, I'm looking at the list, and for a project of this sort, with the issues that it presents, I don't see anything where you can say, well, you could forget about this or forget about that. It's not an easy call. I mean, you have the O&M plan would be required, I think looking at the pitch of the sidewalk, the running track is important. The alternative analysis is required by regulation. Any inconsistency in rainfall or curve number values has to be fixed. So I'm not sure I see an easy way around.
I'm sorry, maybe I asked that question wrong. I think we're committing and willing to doing all of the research to make sure that we answer all of those questions. I'm asking if there's been a decision that says we must change this or must do this at this point until we give you more information. I don't know if that's too early to ask that question. Like, let's say, for example, infill, for example. I know there were some questions, so right now.
In the alternatives analysis, you do have to tell us different ways of orienting the fields, different infill, yes.
Understood. But right now, no particular infill has been eliminated, and you are requiring us right now to change an infill. You just want us to
No.
give an analysis
No.
of that. That's all I'm asking for clarification.
And if any of this would incur costs, you can present that, what you think would be the most costly, and that would help us collectively prioritize things.
Thank you. Like I said, just ask for informational purposes only. I just want to make sure that we're giving you
I
what you
understand.
want.
No, I don't think we have said that we're firmly asking for something else than what you're proposing. I don't think we're saying that.
I don't have enough information. I mean, I think of the 150-degree temperature down at the surface on a really hot day, and I think of a sudden rainfall and what's in that water. Like, none of us, if it were some really bad stuff, then maybe I would say, let's not use that infill, but I don't know.
Okay. Thank you. Again, I wanted to make sure we're giving you the info that you are requesting.
Oh, Sarah, that was clear.
No, right? I mean,
All right, so why don't I call for a motion to continue this meeting, this hearing, until the March 13th meeting of the Burlington Conservation Commission.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? 500. All right, so it's continued. Let us know if you want to go to the next one instead, of course. Sure.
thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate your effort.
Right, Larry, I realized I should have warned you, and I didn't, that for 7A Street, they have asked if we could open it and continue.
They want to open it and continue?
Yeah.
Oh, they don't want to just agree to open it then?
Well, we could, but I've done the legal ad, so
So we have to open it and then
I
continue?
think that would be for the best. Let's just do that, so that we don't have to redo,
Okay.
re-advertise.
I get it, okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, they wanted to, do you want to open it and then I'll explain, or what?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just to remind you all, there was an enforcement, and we asked for restoration, and then they could submit a notice of intent for additional work. And we gave them until February to do so. So this way, they kind of get it in February,
On time.
more or less. Maybe, I think we said the previous meeting, but I mean, we're close enough. Whereas if I didn't want to have to go with
All right, so let me read it, and I think that nothing really needs to be said, because we'll say
That's fine.
we'll continue
We'll just
it.
continue.
Okay, notice is hereby given that the commission will hold a public hearing, during which time we'll take information related to a notice of intent filed by American Maplewood Properties LLC for the proposed storage of construction material and application of crushed stone for parking at 7 A Street in Burlington. The proposed work would be within riverfront area, bordering lands subject to flooding, and the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetlands pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and Burlington Bylaw, Article 14. The commission will review all information relative to the application, and there may issue an order of conditions and a Burlington Wetlands permit. The application may be viewed on the Burlington website at the appropriate link for 7 A Street in Burlington. All right, so this particular hearing, the applicant has asked for it to be continued, so it has been opened. Could I have a motion to continue the hearing for 7 A Street in Burlington to our March 13th meeting? Second?
Second.
All in favor? That's 500. Okay, now we have continued public hearing, proposed stormwater regulations. Eileen or Lucy, would you like to say anything in this regard? It's an open hearing.
Just to remind everybody that we did close the hearing for the bylaw at the last meeting. We have submitted that to town meeting to be on the warrant. We're leaving the regulations open, just to remind everybody, just in case we make any, because we can't really make those, you can't vote those into place until we know whether we're going to be allowed to split up the bylaw. So, you know what I mean? Yeah. And we are-
My question to you would be, why not put them into place? Because if there does arise any conflict, the bylaw governs. I'm not sure there is. It may be duplicative, certainly. But I'm not sure that actually, I mean, what it does do is, if we put it into place, you have essentially a duplicate set. And if for some reason the bylaw didn't get passed, you could delete it if you wanted to. We could have a hearing, a motion to delete all the regulations. Does that make any sense?
I'll
Do we
defer
have
to you,
authority
but
to
I
create
don't,
regulations without that bylaw saying we do?
no, I don't think we do.
We do.
I don't think we do. We need to wait until the bylaw has
We
been,
have to wait.
till the new bylaw, which talks about the regulations. Well, I mean, we did talk about them in previous ones. I think we should let's just leave it open, because that sounds messier.
I think you and Bill are making a lot of sense.
Continue it way down the road.
Plus, and I know you'd like them to go into place immediately, but we also have to wait for the Attorney General to approve the bylaw, which usually takes about 90 days anyway.
It does, okay.
So,
And also hear from town meeting that they may want some stuff added to the bylaw that we had planned to put in the regulations.
maybe,
One never knows.
one never knows.
One never knows, okay. All right, so is there any more discussion needed on it at this point?
Not really,
'Cause
except
I think the draft is in very good shape.
we could just tell everybody that we're in the process of going to the various boards right now to explain what
Right.
our proposals were. You and I both went to the General Bylaw Review Committee a couple of weeks ago. That went very well, very smoothly. Larry's going to speak at the Select Board meeting next week. I'll be there. I'm going to talk to the Land Use Committee the week after. And that might be it for committees until we get to town meeting.
And at town meeting, Bill has agreed to be the main presenter,
Sounds awesome.
or the presenter. Right?
Great.
Okay, so that's where we're at. So could I have a motion to continue the public hearing on our new proposed stormwater regulations to the next meeting of March
You
13th?
want to continue it until a later date? Would that make sense?
Okay, so that hearing, that motion will say we'll continue it to the end of March. How's that? No. To,
When's the meetings in
Well,
May?
I mean, April, May.
After
I need
town
to-
meeting, you think?
Well, that would kind of fit your concern about just not having to address this every week.
right.
I guess.
So why don't we, let's start this over. Could I have a motion to continue the public hearing for the proposed stormwater regulations to the date of the town meeting in May?
First meeting after
First
that.
after, okay,
First meeting after the town meeting in May. How's that?
okay, we can look that up.
All right. Is there a motion like that?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? 500. Okay.
I hope we don't regret that for some reason.
All right.
We'll find out.
Next, planning board comments. Do we have anything?
I don't think we will mention, we should have made sure I forgot to mention to them that they need to contact planning. Oh, well. They will need to go to planning for an MEC at least as well, a minor engineering change, I'm sorry, as well. And that won't even really happen until April. I wrote that somewhere, April. So this might be there might be a few meetings in between that. They don't even have a DEP number for the playing field one yet.
Okay. Subcommittee and staff reports? Other business?
A couple of weeks ago, you signed you approved a certificate of compliance for the gas station at 59-62 in Middlesex Turnpike.
Yes.
They accidentally deleted the original, shredded the original.
They shredded the original.
Yeah, and it was only a couple of weeks ago, so we just reprinted it. Would you mind please signing it again? It's the
All right.
exact same thing, it's simply signatures, so we can just reissue.
That's what they think of our signatures, huh?
I'm not sure, do you need to vote on that? I think we can just...
We can just sign it.
Because you did it just 2 weeks ago.
Right. All right. Any other business? The next meeting of the commission will be March 13th. The next one after that will be March 27th. Is there anything further? No. Do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting of the Conservation Commission?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor? 500. Good night, everyone.
Good night.